Hey, it's Jake Willens here, your writing and wellness guy. Today I'm going to talk about quote choice and how to find textual evidence to support your thesis. Perhaps nothing is more important than finding great quotes when you're writing an essay. For number one, you can't prove your point or support an argument without the evidence. And number two, if you don't have great quotes, it's very hard to grapple well in your analysis. So today I'm going to talk about how to find great quotes and what a great quote is. If you scroll down, we'll see that a great quote, scroll down even further. Remember, a quote does not have to be someone talking in dialogue in the book. All it means is you lifted words directly from the book. So a quote can be a conversation or a dialogue, but it doesn't have to be. Great quotes, number one, clearly support your point, both your subtopics, your topics, your thesis. Number two, they are meaningful, rich passages with keywords and phrases that you can really tear apart and grapple with. Number three, they're varied in length and meaning. You don't want a bunch of really long quotes that are going to drown out your voice. And similarly, even though they have to support the same argument, if they're all too similar, your analysis might be a little bit repetitive. So you want slight variety. They also reveal something important. Maybe it's a key theme, maybe it's characterization, maybe it's foreshadowing. So they jump out at you and you have something to say about them. Remember, if you have too many long quotes and quotes are 4 or 5 lines each and you have 5 quotes, it's going to really drown out your voice. So it's kind of an art form. It takes practice. You got to find that healthy sweet spot of your voice with the quotes. Similarly, if you don't have enough quotes, then you won't have good evidence, and you won't have enough to say in textual analysis. So it's kind of an art form of finding that sweet spot. If you scroll down, the number of quotes, you generally want at least 2 pieces of evidence for each main subtopic or topic. It's very hard to support something with just one quote. For instance, if I said fear is the cause of chaos in the Crucible, and then I have 2 quotes, the witch hunt was a perverse manifestation when the balance began to turn toward freedom, and there is prodigious danger of seeking loose spirits, I fear it. Both of those quotes relate to fear, but they're slightly different, so you'll have enough to say about them. If I have a subtopic about how Atticus teaches compassion or empathy in To Kill a Mockingbird, and he says, if you can learn a simple trick, you get along a lot better. You learn to put yourself in people's shoes. Then we can see that it supports his argument of, or your argument of compassion and empathy, but also if you have the last quote, most people are nice when you finally see them. You can see they're both about empathy, but they're slightly different. You could say different things about compassion. So that would be a time where 2 good quotes, same topic, slightly different. You want to talk to your teacher about his or her preference on number of quotes. I say generally at least 2 per subtopic, but you have to be flexible. Sometimes you might even need more than 2. Other times 1 great quote might do it. Looking at quote order, I'm going to talk a lot about outlining and setting up your paper later, but you generally want to find quotes first and then let your argument grow from that. If you find a bunch of really great quotes, you can then narrow it down to form your subtopics and topics. You don't have to order your quotes chronologically in the book. Though if you're writing about how a character changes or a theme traces throughout the novel, it's probably going to be chronological. But it doesn't have to be. You want to be moving forward by idea, not necessarily by page in the book. You want to find more quotes than you're actually going to use. So let's say you're going to use 8 quotes in an essay. You want to find at least 10 to 12 really great ones so you can then narrow down. If you scroll down, how do you choose great quotes? This is one of those things that just comes with practice. The more you practice, the better you get. Number 1, what have you margin noted? What have you been annotating? You want to be an active reader. Number 2, what quotes have you guys discussed in class? Those are important. What are your friends? What quotes do your friends think are important? What quotes are really rich in meaning and significance? The more you practice this, the more it will just leap out at you, bam, and you'll say, oh, that's a great quote I want to grapple with. No, that one's not good enough. So it's an art form, it takes practice. If you scroll down, we can see, here are some examples, go down further, of good quotes versus not so good. If I said I didn't want to do my homework that night, I looked around for a book to read. All that tells me from Pony Boy is he doesn't like homework. It doesn't say that much about him. If I said, suddenly helping others was not only a personal thing, I could picture hundreds of boys on the wrong side of cities. That quote, where he wants to help other people, reveals how much he's changed and matured. If you scroll down, in To Kill a Mockingbird, no, I can't stay at home and teach you because I have to make a living. All that tells us is that Atticus is a working father. But if he said, first of all, you learn a simple trick, put yourself in people's shoes, that's the core of the book about compassion and empathy. So that's a great quote choice. If I scroll down in Mice and Men, Crooks is a Negro stable dog who has his room off to the side. Okay, it tells me a little bit. He's isolated. But if I use a quote, a guy needs somebody. A guy goes nuts if he ain't got nobody. Don't matter who the guy is, as long as he's with you. I'll tell you, a guy gets too lonely, he goes sick. That quote gets to the heart of the theme of companionship, racism, alienation. It's a great quote. If I said, it has been called to my attention, the temperature in this room is 97 degrees, where Brady in Inherit the Wind asked to take off his jacket. All that says is it's hot in there. If I use the quote from Rachel at the end, where she says, I haven't really thought very much, I was afraid of what I might think, so it seems safer not to think at all. A thought is like a child that has to be born. That gets right to the core theme of you need freedom of thought, you need freedom of expression, you need to express your ideas. And it really shows her change. If I said, with a little positive action before them, the tension died, Ralph said no more. That shows Ralph and Jack in Lord of the Flies have a little tension. But if I said Ralph asserted his chiefmanship and could not have chosen a better way, against this weapon so indefinable and effective, Jack was powerless and raged, that's a great quote about their enmity, about their hatred. There's also great key words you can pick apart. If I said I walked down the aisle past mockers, turning left in a separate piece, all that tells me is a little bit about the context. But if you scroll down, all of them except Finney constructed infinite cause themselves against the Maginot Lines, this enemy they thought they saw against a frontier. An enemy who they thought attacked that way, if he attacked at all, if he was the enemy. That gets right to the core theme of what the real demon is in a separate piece. What's the real enemy? That is a great quote. In The Animal Farm, if I said the animals were not badly off in spite of hard work, tells me they're working hard. But if I quoted the part where Squealer uses propaganda to trick them into why the pigs need the milk and apples, that gets right to manipulation, abuse of power, propaganda, brainwashing, key themes in the book. If you scroll down, I'm not going to talk today about block quotes, I'll get into that later. But to sum up, a great quote is something that supports your point, it reveals something critical, it has key words and phrases, and it's not too similar to all the other ones. You want to find a really good balance of your voice in quotes, and in your analysis, which I'll get to later, you want to really grapple with and pick apart those key words. So I hope this lesson on textual evidence was helpful, and tune in later. Namaste.